If you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to become part of this community. So if you haven't been living behind a rock for the past couple of months, you've probably seen Pooh Shiesty become a really big name in hip-hop, and this is kind of a really meteoric rise to popularity that we've only seen with a couple of artists in hip-hop. Now, the special thing about this is that he is, of course, not an industry plant, and that is very important to say, because the other day I was watching a bunch of videos about industry plants and how, if you don't know what an industry plant is, it is basically an artist that has no following yet, but that is picked up by a major label, and then it seems like they're on the come up and they have all these fans and they're an independent artist that is just trying to get on, but actually they've been backed by a major record label the whole time, and they have managers working on their marketing and working on getting their name out, and they're just kind of like the puppet for the record label to, in the end, turn a profit, of course. But the cool thing about Pooh Shiesty, really, what I really appreciate about him, is that he's still true to his roots. He's from Memphis, and he has been associated with Gucci Mane and also Lil Durk in the recent past, because you might know the track Back in Blood featuring Lil Durk. The video for it has over 60 million views on YouTube and was released in January of this year, and it has over 30 million streams on Spotify too, and is arguably his biggest song. And he recently also dropped his first album, Shiesty Season, which is really doing incredibly well, and I love to see this because he said himself that he's trying to establish a new sound, a new aura for Memphis, for Tennessee, in his surroundings, that in a lot of ways he's very similar to Lil Durk, but of course he's a lot younger and he's been in the game for a lot less time, but he always stays true to this concept of making music for the streets and not selling out in a way. And I love that. Also, that's the thing, if you've been following the channel for some time, you know that I have started to really appreciate and develop a love for Lil Durk. And because he is someone that you might look at his Spotify and you're like, oh, this song only did like 10 million plays, which is still a lot, but it's not like, the billions of plays that some of the big songs do. But he's making, and I always say this, also the same thing I say about Russ, he is probably making more money than a lot of these big artists that are just broke because they're just a puppet for their record label. And Lil Durk has a really strong core fan base, a really strong core following that always supports him no matter what he does. And I think Pooh Shiesty is also an example of what this looks like in a, of course, not as a developed form as Lil Durk yet, but in a smaller sense, and that is incredible. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Pooh Shiesty does next, because he has been co-signed and been noticed by so many big artists. He was also on Gucci Mane's latest record, for 1017 Records, what was this, Icy Summer or whatever it was called. He was featured on there a couple of times actually, so I'm glad to see love being shown to him in that respect. But also, of course, getting co-signed by Lil Durk is a big thing, and as I said, the correlation between the two is very important, because that is exactly, I think Pooh Shiesty is trying to emulate Durk's recent career as much as possible, and that's why we're seeing the results with Pooh Shiesty right now that we're seeing, because he has a strong fan base that pushes his music, and in the times of social media, that is important. If you post something and you have a really strong core that just is always on your stuff and that is always streaming it, commenting, liking, whatever, then that also allows you to be pushed more up in the algorithm of any, if it's social media, if it's streaming, if it's anything. It's always important to have supporters that are always there for you and that will allow you to grow your fan base even further. And while of course Pooh Shiesty has been making music for quite some time now, his latest debut release, Shiesty Season, has really been a standout moment for his career and has kind of blown him up. While of course he's not on the level of, you know, making 100 million streams immediately, he's in that really interesting state where he's getting a consistent plays and consistent exposure and love being shown to him and being respected and recognized by hip-hop and his fans on the level where you can just count the days until he blows up on a major level. And this is why I really have my eyes on Pooh Shiesty, because I believe that in the next year he can really elevate his career to the next level. And just the fact that he is so self-reflecting on his career and so sure of what he's doing, and that he's sure that he's doing it right because he knows it's right, this makes me appreciate it so much more. He seems very confident. He seems very sure in what he's doing, in who he's trying to be and what he wants his music to be, and that is really what what makes him stand out like that. He's of course also been shown love by the likes of Lil Baby and all that. Lil Baby was also on one of the tracks off of that Icy Summer. I think it was Monday to Sunday, which Pooh Shiesty was also the lead artist from. So he's getting big love from the industry, getting co-signed by all these artists. And that's, of course, a very important factor in his come up, too. If he had no industry connections, he would have never elevated to the level where he's at right now. Even though I would argue he would have still been able to do that, because, as I said, examples like Russ, who I always feel weird about Russ, talking about Russ, because I was never a big Russ fan, but just over the past month or two, I've just really started to appreciate his come up. So don't take me as like a Russ fanatic. I'm really not. For the longest time, I thought he was really corny, and I really didn't like him and care about him. But just to take it as an example, Russ had no industry connections, and still, through what I just explained, having a core fan base, it made him blow up and it made him grow his music. And I still believe that Pooh Shiesty would have done the same thing. So this Pooh Shiesty is displaying that having a really controlled career and building a fan base is way more important than just blowing up off of one song. Of course, Back in Blood is doing well, but that is a process of many months and years of work before that, until one song eventually really blows up. But if you go on his page, there's not one song that has 50 times the streams of all the other songs. So I think Pooh Shiesty's career is going exactly as planned, and he has a very bright future ahead of him. I am really excited for what he has coming within the next year. And yeah, I hope the guy can continue to do what he does, because he is living proof that authenticity and organic growth is still the way to go. And I love that he's getting all the love he's getting. So yeah, let me know what you think about this. Are you listening to Shiesty Season? Are you listening to Pooh Shiesty? Do you think the love he's getting is deserved? Do you like his music? Personally, even though I'm not too much of a fan of his music, of like that really like hard-hitting drill sound, it's interesting that it's coming from a place like Memphis, but of course he's associated with Chicago artists like Lil Durk, as I said. Even though I'm not too much into that, I'm listening to his music and I appreciate it for what it is. So yeah. See you guys in the next one. Let me know what you think about Pooh Shiesty. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, and you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media and blog down in the description. It really helps me out. Until the next one, y'all have an incredible day, and y'all take care.